Good afternoon, Chaos. This is Kelatos, your friendly Legions leader here for another roster review. This one of one of our long-standing Legions members, Silversharx. For those of you who don't know, Silver has been with us for quite a while. I remember at least since Territory Battles have been out. And Silver was one of those guys we kept on, because even though he was the lower end of the GP, he always did a really good job using his tunes, getting the most out of them, and overall just doing a great job. So I'm more than happy to get this roster review done for Silver and kind of see what I can do to help out. I noticed right away that his fleet rank is fairly strong. His arena rank is not as high as I would have expected given his Zeta Emperor Palpatine lead. So maybe we can look at a couple tweaks there to help it out. And otherwise, just give Silver some tips and pointers towards making his team truly heroic Sith ready. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And first of all, I'm going to look at that arena team. Because with Emperor Palpatine, and especially with two Zetas on Darth Vader, should be able to keep a fairly high rank. So I'm going to first start by looking at the Sith to see how his triumvirate is. And we see that Darth Nihilus and Darth Sion are both fairly low in the gear list, which is fine. So that means we got to really, really focus on the Empire and see what Empire tunes he can throw in there. And we see that Grand Admiral Thrawn is at gear 12 with, I'm hoping that's an Ebb and Flow Zeta, which it is, which means he just needs another damage dealer and a strong tank. So a Grand Moff Tarkin is a great person to add in here. Looks like he has some great mods. You know, Tarkin is all about that potency. So throwing in Grand Moff Tarkin. And ideally for tanks, in my opinion, the absolute best tank to go with Emperor Palpatine is Darth Sion. But you only have Darth Sion at 4 stars, I believe. So really, really low gear. Though a geared Sion is extremely viable, still only at 4 stars. Sith Trooper is another great option, but again, see only 3 stars there. And if you remember, his Shore Trooper was 7 or 6 stars, gear 8. So there's just one last really strong tank to check out, and that's General Kenobi, who we see is gear 11, 7 star. So General Kenobi might be a good option in there. So if we look at your team overall, it might be a good idea to switch out R2 and Commander Luke Skywalker with General Kenobi and Grand Moff Tarkin as you get them to gear 12. So that would be my small piece of advice for your arena if you want to be able to get into the top 100 and stay up there. So with that out of the way, let's look at these heroic teams. Now, looking over your roster, I noticed that you have a lot of very strong characters, and it looks to me like you picked one person at a time and geared them up to 12. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. That's a great way to stay focused and really get what you need. However, it's left you with a bunch of teams that are just not quite ready to go. You're missing 1 or 2 characters for 6 or 7 really, really strong teams. And the first one you checked, is probably the one everybody's waiting for, your Resistance. Very strong. You're waiting for Jedi Training Rey, obviously. But in the meantime, you could be gearing up Scavenger Rey and Resistance Trooper, because you are just about ready to go. Provided your Smuggler Chewbacca and Smuggler Han are up to snuff. Now, I don't think your Smuggler Chewbacca will be ready in time. If Jedi Training Rey comes out in June, as many are predicting, I don't think you'll be ready for your veteran Smuggler Chewie. So I wouldn't worry about gearing up your Resistance right now. With that said, we can go on to some strong Phase 2 teams. Now, my first look for Phase 2 teams is Imperial. And specifically Imperial Troopers, but we can see here that your Veers is great. You have Gear 12 or Gear 11 Veers with a Zeta. However, none of your other troopers are over Gear 8. So, troopers are not really an option for you, which is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it at this point. Well, I mean, there is, but at this instant, we're not going to be able to use them. But if you want to throw gear on Stark, Snow Trooper, Death Trooper, and Shore Trooper, you got a great Phase 2 team right there. Otherwise, Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Grand Moff Tarkin, those guys all work well together. And if you could finish starring him out, Darth Nihilus works well in that group. So some combination of your highest geared Sith and Empire under Emperor Palpatine, provided you get a solid tank in that group. So I would strongly recommend your next gear target be an Imperial tank like Shore Trooper. Because he will carry you far, and he's good in a lot of groups, and can definitely help. Once you get him 7-star, and that would probably be my recommendation for your number one top priority hard node farm. Cantina farms, Death Trooper. You're not gonna have the smugglers ready for the next Ray, so just get Death Trooper and then go back to the smugglers, because Death Trooper is so amazing. So let's move on to some other Phase 2 teams that you might have and that could work. The Jedi, they have some decent Phase 2 teams. However, I notice you don't have an Ayla Secura on here. Now, for me personally, Ayla is a great Jedi. And she does work well in Phase 2. Her counters do a lot of damage. Her special is super strong, especially under a Zeta Qui-Gon Jinn lead. Which is surprising that you don't have Qui-Gon at 7-star yet. So maybe in your Cantina store, you want to finish getting Qui-Gon up to 7 stars. And he will be a great leader for Jedi. Now, another Phase 2 team, the Phoenix Squad, which you have Ezra and Hera fairly well geared, but you need Zeb, Sabine, and Kanan. So you need 3 ones for this group and 4 Zetas. So that group is fairly far off. I wouldn't worry about them too much at this point. And the other one that's been floating around is a Machine Gun Leia. But your Princess Leia is Gear 8, your Admiral Akbar is Gear 7. So this group would definitely need some work as well. So Biggs doesn't have much of a place in the Sith raid right now. R2's biggest place is with Jedi Training Rey. And Commander Luke Skywalker definitely does have a place, but his place is in Phase 3 with a Chex Mix team, where you need Death Trooper, Chirrut, Imwe, who you do have a Gear 12, but you also need a Raid Han, which I don't see. Oh, there he is. Yeah, Raid Han, Gear 11. A Zeta could be useful with him, and you would also need Pow, who you only have at 2 stars. So you need to find somebody else that can give you offense up. I know some are using Jedi Knight Anakin, who you don't have unlocked yet. So there's, like I said, there's 4 or 5 teams where you're one character away from having a great Sith raid team, both in Phase 1, 2 or 3 in Phase 2, of that one in Phase 3. And then phase 4, we look at, and there's a couple strong teams, but I don't think you're near ready for Night Sisters. You don't even have 5 7-star yet, so they're really not an option. First Order is supposed to be very good against Darth Sion, but you need a Kylo Ren unmasked lead. So really don't have him there. So he needs to kind of get started up and geared, which is really quick. And lastly, the other really great Phase 4 team is Clone Troopers. Now here, you're looking pretty good. Because in Phase 4, when it's just Traya, you could go in there with a Rex lead, 5's Echo Sergeant, and either Baze Malbus or Sunfac or some other super slow tank. Your Sergeant would need a little more gear. You want to get him to gear 11 or gear 12. Echo, you could throw a couple more on, but that's not a big deal. And then your Baze, who you have a gear 11 already, would be a great tank in there. So that's probably the most complete group you have right now. But like I said, you need some gear on Clone Sergeant. So, recap. Your Resistance team won't be ready for a while because you're going to need to wait for the next Jedi Training Ray. In the meantime, gear or focus on gearing one of these Phase 2 teams. My recommendation would be an Imperial team with Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Grand Moff Tarkin, and Shore Trooper. So Shore Trooper is probably going to be your first gearing target based on the recommendations that I would give you. And then once you finish the Empire group, you could work on a Phoenix squad or a Jedi squad. Your Imp Troopers are pretty far off, though if you wanted to work on them, you definitely could do that. And then you would sub Stormtrooper in the Emperor Palpatine group or keep Stormtrooper in this group. But definitely would gear Stormtrooper, Stark, Snow Trooper, Death Trooper, and Shore Trooper. With Shore Trooper being your main hard node farm and Death Trooper being your main Cantina farm. For Phase 3, the Chex Mix is your best option with Commander Luke Skywalker lead. Raid Han Solo, Chirrut Imwe, Death Trooper, when you get him to 7-star, as well as a character that can add offense up. The 3 main ones are being Pow, Jedi Knight Anakin, and Qui-Gon Jinn, all 3 of which you don't have starred and ready to go. So decide which one of those 3 you really want to focus on. Because Qui-Gon and Pow both are farmed out of the Cantina store, and Jedi Knight Anakin is farmed out of hard nodes, I believe. So take your pick and focus on one of those. And then once you finish farming Death Trooper, then you can start focusing on not Princess Leia. You can start focusing on farming up some of these really strong First Order characters, such as Kylo Ren Unmasked and First Order Executioner. So, unfortunately for you, we have a lot of Gear 12s that we may not be able to use right away. Because Finn, Cody, Darth Maul, Resistance Pilot, Biggs Darklighter, none of them have really much of a place at this point in time. Boba Fett could have a place. However, he's the only one of your bounty hunters with gear. And none of your other scoundrels have much gear right now either. So, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use him too much for a little while. But those guys I mentioned are some great targets for right now as far as farming and gearing. So hopefully that could give you a little bit of direction. Hopefully that helps you kind of narrow down your focus. so that these great tunes that you have, you can use a little more efficiently and get the most out of them. So we're going to be running a heroic later today. Hopefully you can get a few attempts in, get your shots in, see what you can do, and then we can work from there. So for you, Silver, best of luck. Hopefully these farms and gearing doesn't take too long, because like I said, you're right there. 4 or 5 tunes and you've got a solid 3 heroic Sith teams. So best of luck to you, and best of luck to Chaos. So until next time, guys, everybody have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, and happy farming, Chaos.